Welcome to lecture 65 on essentials of topology. Continue with the concept of separation axioms. In this lecture, we will discuss the well-known Eurozone lemma and will establish a foundation of its proof. In the previous lecture, we have already studied the concept of normal spaces and gone through a number of examples. What the concept of normal spaces is, we have seen that a normal space or a topological space is normal if it is T4 plus T1. Coming to the concept of T4 spaces, what we have seen that if we are taking a topological space, we say that this space is T4 if we are taking any two subsets of X, these A and B are closed and disjoint. There exist two open sets. Let us take them as G as well as H such that A is inside G, B is inside H, and G and H should be disjoint. Question is, can we construct such open sets by using the concept of continuous functions? Answer is yes, and that is stated here. The statement is, if we are having a topological space X tau, let us have a pair of disjoint closed subsets of X. We are taking these closed sets as A as well as B, and if there exists a function f from this X to closed interval 0 1 which is continuous, satisfying the criteria that f of A, this is equal to singleton set 0, and the image of this B under f is singleton set 1, then there exist open sets G and H satisfying the criteria which are required for a space to be T4. Question is how it is possible. So what exactly we are taking here? We are taking a function which is continuous, sending the set A to singleton set 0 and B to singleton set 1. Exactly this is the function. If this is our set X, let us take that this is interval 0 1. If we are taking a set A here and let us take this B here, note that A and B are disjoint closed sets. We are taking a function f from this X to this closed interval 0 1, and what it is doing that it is sending this A to this 0 and this is sending this B to 1, and this is sufficient for the construction of two disjoint open sets G as well as H. Let us see how we can construct it. Answer is here, as this image of A under F is 0 or this is singleton set 0. What we can conclude from here that this A is a subset of inverse image of this singleton set 0 under F. Similarly, because of this image of B singleton set 1, what we can conclude that this B is also a subset of inverse image of this singleton set 1. It is to be noted that the codomain is the closed interval 0 1, and this interval is subset of set of reals, and this set of reals is endowed with Euclidean topology. So we can talk about the relative topology on this closed interval 0 1, and in case of relative topology on this closed interval 0 1, we can construct open sets in 0 1. Let us take two open sets, this 0 to half, this is an interval, and let us take another open set that is half and 1, this is another interval. Note that both are open in this closed interval 0 1 because it is equipped with the relative topology. Now what we can write that as this singleton set 0 is a subset of this interval, that is 0 to half. We can say that this F inverse of this singleton set 0 is a subset of F inverse of this semi-open interval, that is 0 to half, and it is to be noted that this is containing A. Also, by continuity, we can say that the set, that is inverse image of this interval under F, this is open subset of X, or we can say that this is tau open. So why not let us take this as G. Similarly, if we are looking the structure of this interval, note that the singleton set 1, this is a subset of this semi-open interval, that is half to 1. Now if we are taking the inverse image of this singleton set 1, this is a subset of inverse image of this semi-open interval, that is half to 1. Let us take this one as H, and because this interval is open in this closed interval 0 1, by continuity we can say that this H is also tau open. Further, note that this F inverse of the singleton set 1 is containing B, therefore this B is a subset of this one. Or finally what we can conclude? We can conclude that this A is a subset of G and this B is a subset of H. Question is, what about this G intersection H? It is clear from here that this will be nothing but intersection of inverse image of this semi-open interval under F and inverse image of this semi-open interval under F, and that will always be an empty set. Thus, we have constructed a pair of open sets which are disjoint to one is containing the closed set A and another is containing closed set B. Question is, what about its converse? That is, if we are taking a T4 space, or in general, let us take a normal space, can be construct a continuous function such that f of A is equal to singleton set 0 and f of B is singleton set 1, and that is known as the well-known Urysohn lemma. The lemma is stated as, let x tau be a normal space and this A as well as B be a pair of disjoint closed subsets of X. Then there exists a continuous function f from this space X to closed interval 0 1 such that fx is equal to 0 for all x in A and fx is equal to 1 for all x in B. That is, image of A under F will always be a singleton set 0 and image of B under F will always be singleton set 1. Before discussing the proof of this lemma, let us take an example of construction of such continuous functions in case of metric spaces. We already know that if we are taking a metric space xt, we can talk about the metric topology. Also, we have shown that this space is normal. Now, let us take two disjoint closed subsets of X. So, we are taking A and B as a subset of X. Note that these both are disjoint plus at the same time they are closed to. If they are closed, what we can conclude that closure of A is equal to A and closure of B is equal to B. Our motive is to construct a continuous function from X to closed interval 0 1 satisfying this property. In order to construct the function, we will use two results. One we have already seen, that is, for a metric space xt, if we are taking a subset A of X and we define a function f from this x to set of real numbers such that f of x is equal to distance between this x and this set A for all x in x, then this function is always a continuous function. Also, from metric spaces, we know that this distance between x and any set A, this is always 0 if and only if x belongs to A bar. We are going to use these two results for construction of this continuous function. Also, it is to be noted that in our case A bar is equal to A and this B bar is equal to B. So, in our case we can always say that if x belongs to A, this d of xa will always be 0, and similarly if x belongs to B, we can say that this d of xb is equal to 0. Now let us define a function by using this function f. So what we are defining? We are defining another function. Let us take this function is h from x to r. Instead of r, we are taking this closed interval 0 1 such that h of x is equal to dxa divided by sum of this dxa as well as dxb. It is to be noted that the value of hx will always lie in between 0 as well as 1. Question is why? Because d is a metric, so this ratio will always be greater than or equal to 0. Further, if we are just thinking about this sum, that is dxa plus dxb, note that this is always greater than or equal to dxa, and therefore this ratio, that is dxa divided by this dxa plus dxb, this will always be less than or equal to 1. Thus h is a function from x to closed interval 0 1. Next we want to check that this function is continuous, that is continuity of h. What exactly we require if we use this result, that this function is always continuous and this is nothing but sum as well as division of continuous functions. So this will always be a continuous function provided the denominator, that is dxa plus dxb, is not equal to 0. Question is how to justify that this sum is not equal to 0. Answer is here. For example, if we are taking x is in A, then obviously because A and B are disjoint, x cannot be an element of B, and therefore this dxb will always be greater than 0. Thereby we can say that this sum dxa plus this dxb is always greater than 0. Similarly, if x is an element of B, note that x cannot be element of A, and in this case we can conclude that dxa is greater than 0, or we can say that this sum, that is dxa plus dxb, this is also greater than 0. Finally, if x is neither element of A nor this is element of B, in this case we can conclude that dxa is greater than 0 and this dxb is also greater than 0, and therefore this sum, that is dxa plus dxb, will always be greater than 0. Thus our requirement was this denominator should not be equal to 0, that we have justified, and hence this function h will always be continuous. Finally, if we want to see that what is the image of A under f, or if we are taking any x in A, then What about this h of x? It is to be noted that if x is an element of A, from here we can conclude that h of x will always be 0. So this h of x equal to 0. Now if x is an element of B, then what about this h of x? By definition, this is dxa divided by this dxa plus, because x is an element of B, this will be 0, and finally we are getting 1. Thus, what conclusion we have with us that for all x in A, hx equal to 0, and for all x in B, this hx is equal to 1. Thus, what we have seen that as matriceable spaces are normal, and by using the normality we can construct such function satisfying fx equal to 0 for all x in A and fx equal to 1 for all x in B. When we want to prove this result for a general topological space, actually we require some more concepts. Let us see the first result which we will use to prove Uri's own lemma for a topological space. This result is stated as if we are having a normal space x tau, then for each closed subset f of x and for each open set G containing f, there exists an open set H satisfying the property that f is a subset of H is a subset of closure of H, and this closure of H is a subset of G. What exactly this result says that if we are having a closed set F and this closed set is included in some open set, what we can do that we can find another open set which is containing this F, that is this is our H, and H is contained in closure of H, and this closure is contained in the set G, which is this one. So this is G, this is closure of H, this is H, and F is inside H. In order to prove it, let us begin with what is given to us, that F is a subset of this G. Note that F is a closed set and G is an open set. What we can say that this F intersection G complement is an empty set, or that this F and G complement are closed sets and they are disjoint too, that is these sets are disjoint. Now use the normality of the space, what we can say that there exist two open sets. Let us take them as H and this H dash, such that what we can conclude that this F is contained in this open set H, while this G complement is contained in this H dash, and finally this H and H dash are disjoint. Now from here what we can conclude that this H is subset of H dash complement, and if it is subset of H dash complement, if we are taking the closure of this H, that is subset of this closure of H dash complement, note that H dash is an open set, so its complement is closed set, and therefore its closure will be H dash complement. Now what we can conclude from here, as this F is a subset of H, so this F is a subset of H. Note that H is always subset of its closure. What closure is? Closure is subset of this H dash complement, but at the same time it is to be noted from here that this H dash complement is subset of this G. So finally what B got from here, that is F is a subset of H, H is subset of closure of H, and this is subset of G, and that was our requirement to justify this result. We will use this result to prove the well-known Eurozone lemma. Now, what the next concept we will use, that is the concept of dyadic rationals. What is it? Answer is, note that our motive is to construct a continuous function from x to this closed interval 0 1. So what we are going to discuss, we are going to take the rationals in this closed interval 0 1. So if this is the closed interval 0 1, let us take the rational numbers of this form, that is m upon 2 raised to the power n, where m is less than or equal to 2 raised to the power n, and this is always greater than or equal to 0. The collection of such rationals or such rational numbers we will denote by this D, and precisely these rationals are known as dyadic rationals. Note that if we are looking the structure of this set D, how this will look like, idea is what we are taking here. We are taking a closed interval 0 1. Now if we are taking n is equal to 1, so what will happen, actually we are dividing this interval in two parts, and let us take this midpoint as half. Now let us see that how these rationals will look like. Now if we are taking n is equal to 1, note that this m will lie between 0 to 2, and in this case this m upon 2 raised to the power n, this will look like this is 0. Also for m equal to 1, this will be 1 upon 2, and for m equal to 2, this will be 1. Similarly, we are taking n equal to 2. So what exactly we will do for n equal to 2 is, still our closed interval is 0 1. This is the midpoint. Actually we are making the division of these sub intervals. So for n equal to 2, note that this m upon 2 raised to the power n, this will look like in this way, because for n equal to 2, this m will lie between 0 to 2 square, that is 4. So for m equal to 0, this ratio will be 0. For m equal to 1, this ratio will be 1 upon 2 square. For n equal to 2, this ratio is nothing but 2 upon 2 square. Similarly, this is 3 upon 2 square, and this is 4 upon this is 2 square. Or what we can say, that this ratio will look like 0, 1 upon 4, this is half, this is 3 upon 4, and finally 1. That is, these are the points which are coming for n equal to 2. Also it is to be noted that this set D is countable dense subset of the closed interval 0 1. Before providing the formal proof of this Eurozone lemma, let us see a glimpse that how we will use these two results in the proof. Note that what is given to us in case of this lemma, that we are having with us a normal space, and also we are having two subsets of X. Note that A and B are disjoint. Also this is given to us that A and B are closed. Now if A and B are disjoint, what we can say, that this A is a subset of B complement. Now let us take this B complement as G1. So what we can say, that this is a closed set, and this closed set is contained in an open set. Then by using the result which we have already discussed, what we can say that there exists an open set. Let us denote that by G naught, that is in tau, such that what we can conclude, we can say that this A is contained in G naught is contained in the closure of G naught, and this is a subset of G1. Again, it is to be noted that this set is open and this is a closed set, and if this is the case, again use the same result, and what we can say that there exists in the open set. Let us take that open set is G half, this is in tau, such that this G naught closure is a subset of this G half. This G half is subset of G half closure, and this is subset of G1. Also, it is to be noted that this will always be a superset of G naught, and this G naught is superset of A. From here, what we are getting? We are getting open sets, that is G naught. This is contained in G half. This is contained in G1, and it is to be noted that this G naught is containing A. Now see the suffix of these open sets. Note that we are getting 0, we are getting half here, and this is 1. If we are continuing this process, we can get 1 by 4, 3 by 4 and other dyadic rationals in between 0 as well as 1. Let us only use these open sets here and have a glimpse that what we will do for proving this lemma. Now let us see that how we can construct a function. So we are defining the function in this way, that is f is from x to this closed interval 0 1, such that for all x in x, this fx is given by, this is minimum of r. What is r? That is suffix of these open sets where x belongs to this gr, and this is when x is a member of G1. If x is not member of G1, that is in case of otherwise, let us take that this value is 1. Now if we are defining the function in such a fashion, what we can see that if our x belongs to A, and if we want to find out the value of fx, note that that will be minimum of the rationals, that is 0, half and 1, and this is because A is contained in, this is G naught, this is subset of G1, this is subset of, or this is G half, and this is subset of G1. And if we are taking x in A, x is a member of these three open sets and their minimum will always be 0. Thus for all x in A, fx will always be equal to 0. Also if x belongs to B, note that if x is a member of B, x cannot be member of B complement, or that x is not a member of G1. Now if x is not member of G1, what we can say that this fx is equal to 1. So we have constructed a function such that fx is equal to 0 for all x in A, and fx is equal to 1 for all x in B. Question is whether this function is continuous. That is not easy to justify here, that we will justify when we will discuss the formal proof of this lemma. But from here it is clear that how we will use both the concepts. One is a result regarding normal spaces, and second is the concept of dyadic rationals for proving this Urysohn lemma. These are the references. That's all from this lecture. Thank you.